Hey guys, welcome back. We are here at round 4. I am Regina, and my partner this time is Jake Mullen. This is going to be so fun.
I cannot wait. This is going to be
great. So we have for you two people that are relatively unknown, I would say. We have Michael D'Angelo and Jose Mena.
Yes.
So when we read these names, I was like, I don't know who they are. But it's kind of cool. I actually enjoy seeing that, especially
absolutely.
At regionals where you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, you're so used to seeing the same names over and over again.
Right. It's always really fun to, see some newer up-and-coming players. We know that Michael D'Angelo has got a top 32 finish at Dallas this year and a top 16 finish at Oaks also this year, whereas Jose is actually from Costa Rica and has made top 8 at their most recent special event. So two pretty strong players here that may not have had, some of the biggest success yet, but they're looking to, and they both started 3-0, so they're well on their way.
Yeah, and unfortunately one of them is going to go to be 3-1 after this, because, that's just how this works. However, I'm kind of excited. We were looking at their teams. It is going to be an almost near mirror. There's just a couple things that are going to be a little different. Hopefully they've eaten and rested up a little bit after that lunch break. I don't know what that's like at this point.
Yeah, they do have very, very similar teams. They're both running the Groudon Xerneas core, and they're both rocking Incineroar and Salamence as support. Michael is running Tapu Fini and Stakataka as his last two, whereas Jose has Tapu Lele and Amoonguss. And so it looks like Jose decided to go a little bit more offensive with his team. Tapu Lele, a much more offensive Pokemon by nature than Tapu Fini, whereas he has the Amoonguss to kind of hold everything together as a glue Pokemon, where Stakataka on Michael's end kind of gives the team a more slower mode.
Yeah, so it'll be kind of fun to see how they interact with each other on this, because especially when you're running something like, we were so expecting to see things like Dawn Wings or Duskmane Necrozma, and then have those Ultra Bursts, and it's been very rare to see them lately, and they're just setting up there still, waiting for the go-ahead from our side, and then we'll see exactly how these Tapus and then their last kind of different Pokemon will sort of interact. And I think what's fun is, because obviously Costa Rica is definitely like not anywhere like near
pretty far removed from Florida. Yeah.
So the fun thing is, like, you have your own sort of like meta in other countries,
right?
Like, and I think it's really fun being able to bring that to places where people might not be expecting it. So I think what would be really cool is if we do get something like, the Tapu Lele, like, what if it's running something differently? Like, we see so many Choice Craft Tapu Lele on ladder. And a different item might be fun. But.
Yeah, no, Tapu Lele is definitely a Pokemon that's been around, but not necessarily on this type of team composition. For the most part, we see Tapu Fini almost exclusively with this core, but, Jose opting for the Tapu Lele instead. And like I said earlier, it's a much more offensive Pokemon than Tapu Fini. They both have that fairy typing, and they both have their different terrains, but Tapu Lele, it boosts its attacks with its terrain, whereas Tapu Fini is more of a defensive terrain. And that's kind of the whole theme between these two Pokemon in general.
And there you guys go. On your screen, we've got those teams up for you. So like we had mentioned before, an almost near mirror match with just two different types. We just have like a couple different, the two different Tapus, and then the Amoonguss and Stakataka versus each other. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how they lead, because obviously the only thing we'll really have out here is Primal Groudon and that reversion here. No Kyogre whatsoever.
Right. I think the Stakataka on Mike's end is going to be very valuable in this matchup. Stakataka is a really good check to both Xerneas and Salamence. It's pretty good against Incineroar, has that super high defense that'll prevent much damage coming out from Incineroar. And then obviously Tapu Lele, unless it's running a stray Focus Blast somewhere, likely not going to be able to damage Stakataka nearly at all. And so, especially if it's something like Wide Guard with a Shucka Berry potentially, that's a pretty common set these days. And that specifically is very good against Groudon as well, because it can, take a Precipice Blades, even though it is that double super effective with that Shucka Berry, and it can also just prevent damage from Blades in general with that Wide Guard.
And here we go. We're going to go into this round 4, match 1. I'm super excited because we finally get battling Tapus, hopefully. Because I'm just so used to seeing either one person having a Tapu or the other person not having one. And now we have both Affinity and Lele possibly hitting the field here. And we are going to be having Incineroar, and I'm guessing that's Xerneas actually on the field. So having the potential for the Geomancy Fake Out, and Salamence and Xerneas. So same Xerneas, different Intimidators here, and we are going to get that Salamence. Getting that Intimidate first off here, going to matter a little bit more for that Incineroar, and vice versa. That Incineroar's Intimidate going to matter more on the Salamence. Fairy Aura on Jose's side, though, going to be faster than the Fairy Aura on Michael's side here. And we've got Fake Out pressure now on the field as well.
Yeah, and that Fairy Aura activation is always important. It's always good to notice whether you're a player or just watching at home, just because you know that, unless there was a speed tie and Jose's Xerneas won the initial turn 0 tie, it's pretty safe to assume that the Xerneas on Jose's end is trained to be a little bit faster, which kind of makes sense given the more bulky nature of Michael's team. We have the Tapu Fini, sometimes run Heal Pulse, which bulky Xerneas benefits a lot more from, and we have that slow mode with Stakataka. And so if you have your boosted Xerneas facing down another boosted Xerneas, but you can set up a Trick Room, then you know that yours has the advantage. Whereas if they don't have Trick Room themselves, it's more likely that they're going to be a little bit faster.
And Salamon's going to get out of there. No Mega Evolution from it this turn. Stakataka coming onto the field, though. Like you said before, might have that potential Trick Room as well, or that Shoko Berry and Wide Guard set. Moonblast, no Geomancy set up here from that Xerneas on Jose's side of the field. Gets the Stakataka in on the switch and does some pretty good damage still, though, despite the non-effectiveness. However, Michael is going to be taking the chance here to set up his own Xerneas now, gets that +2 to everything, and will be consuming that Power Herb to make that 2-turn setup a 1-turn setup here. And actually no Fake Out either from the
No Fake Out, so we might be seeing something like a U-turn reposition, possibly a Snarl to maybe mitigate this Geomancy, but a wise decision from Jose to not go for Geomancy immediately, because the stack attack is pretty threatening immediately, but there's a Roar instead. Oh, wow.
Well, there's exactly why we didn't see that, and that's a great chance to be like, hey, thanks for using your herb. Bye.
No, it's a great turn for Jose. The Xerneas on Michael's end really wasn't threatened by a whole lot. All I had to worry about was potential tying with another Xerneas, but on a turn where they possibly both Geomancing, that's not a big deal. So Jose taking advantage of the fact that Michael might just go straight for Geomancy and getting rid of that Power Herb boost immediately.
And now we have that Groudon being dragged out thanks to that Roar, brings with it that extremely harsh sunlight thanks to the Primal Reversion. And like we had said, Jose's Xerneas is not yet set up, but it is staring down a Stakataka right now.
Right, and the fact that it's not set up means it's much easier for Jose to switch out the Xerneas. If you Geomancy, you really don't want to be switching out because then you're wasting that boost, you're wasting your item. But now that he just went for that Moonblast, you got a decent chunk of damage off on Stakataka. That's a little bit more than I would have expected. So, possibly a more offensively trained Xerneas. But now his Xerneas is much more flexible to either go for a little bit more damage if he wants. I would be pretty surprised to see a Geomancy this turn, considering the 2 Pokemon it's staring against. But now it's much easier to play around with his Xerneas.
And we're going to see exactly what's going to happen as Michael does lock into his moves. Jose taking a little bit more time, but we do have a switch from Stakataka instead. Salamon's coming back into the field, so the Incineroar now on Jose's side is at -2. Xerneas is as well, but again, it is a more specially trained Pokemon, so these Intimidate's not going to matter much. Still not Mega Evolved either, though, so it does have an Intimidate ability. So protect from Xerneas this turn, no switch outs, and no Geomancy, obviously, here. But Precipice Blade's not going to connect with that Xerneas behind the Protect and is actually going to connect with that Incineroar right now. And this Incineroar, not very offensive because of that -2, and because that Groudon wasn't intimidated, gets a clean knockout on Incineroar.
Yeah, like you said, the Groudon coming in on the Roar meant that it wasn't intimidated, and since that Incineroar was already on the field, it was pretty threatened by that Precipice Blades and eventually just got knocked out by it. And so, Incineroar having a great turn 1, roaring out the Xerneas, but a not so great turn 2, getting knocked out immediately.
And now we've got the other Primal Groudon.
Right.
So here we go. The Primal Groudon on Jose's side is obviously not going to bring in the Harsh Sunlight because it's already up. But
right.
now it's just a battle of non-intimidated Groudons here.
Right. And Groudon coming in now kind of leads me to believe that Jose may not have brought Salamence. I imagine if you do have the Salamence in the back, you might want to get that Groudon intimidated right off the bat. Possibly saving Salamence to switch on the Xerneas slot this turn to kind of bluff that he might not have it. But that Intimidate's going to be very handy because if he isn't packing that Salamence, this Groudon's going to be at neutral attack for the rest of this game.
That's going to be tough, especially because it does so much damage. And now we
right.
have that Mega Salamence coming onto the field here on Michael's side. Is going to be losing that Intimidate ability, however, is getting Aerialate, so those normal type moves are turning into flying type moves now, like Hyper Voice, but does go for a Tailwind instead, so doesn't want to risk any sort of speed type potential between these two Groudons. Is going to allow himself that speed advantage. As Groudon on Jose's side goes for the Passive Blades, does connect with Michael's, and it is non-intimidated as well, so does a lot of damage and keeps it just a little bit of about quarter health, as now the Xerneas is finally going for Geomancy here.
Yeah, we do see Geomancy on Michael's end, Jose's end. Possibly a little bit too late, because that Tailwind is going up this turn, and if the Groudon on Michael's side is able to connect with these Precipice Blades, the Xerneas may find itself within range of getting knocked out by a Double Edge from this Salamence. And so the Precipice Blaze missing the knockout on Michael's Groudon means that it is now free to fire off an attack this turn. There's a Precipice Blaze, and it's going to connect with both, so it's going to be some pretty huge damage.
Yeah, I have double connection too. This is so much Blaze hitting. This is kind of crazy. But yeah, both Pokemon in the yellow now on Jose's side of the field, and Michael with that speed advantage thanks to that tailwind he just set up.
Yeah, so now he brought Intimidate, but with Groudon and Tapu Lele in the back, we know that Precipice Blades is super effective against Groudon. We saw it do a bunch of damage. Tapu Lele, not known for being the bulkiest Pokemon, so it probably would have taken a pretty similar amount to the Groudon. And so, Jose, he got his first turn right, but then he kind of had to cut his losses.
Yeah, and I think looking at their teams, like you said, not having Salamence in the back for Jose was kind of rough because having that ability to get multiple Intimidates or just not losing your only Intimidator is really important, especially since both of them are running Groudon.
Right. I mean, Salamence, it's an Intimidator, but it's also just a switch into Groudon in general. Even after you Mega Evolve, it still has that flying type. It's still immune to Precipice Blades. It still takes resistant damage from Fire Punch, and so not having Salamence against a team with Groudon is really, really difficult. Or not bringing Salamence, rather, against this team with Groudon is really, really difficult because Groudon is pretty prone to kind of take over, especially if it gets a speed boost from that Tailwind, or especially if Mike's able to set up a Trick Room. And as long as the Groudon at his end of the field is moving first, he's going to be in a pretty commanding position.
Yeah, especially that Stack Attacker, like having that on the field just, I think, makes it so that Jose is a little wary of bringing certain things. And I think that Stack Attacker Amoonguss interaction was something that we had pointed out earlier where, if you set up Trick Room, then Amoonguss can like come in and take advantage of that. But then you've also got like all the trains up. But we'll see exactly how Jose decides to adjust in this game too, and if he can manage to push it to a game 3. So I think if you're Mike, you're sitting pretty nicely, saying like, all right, if I get rolled again, then I can use that to my advantage. We get Salamence and Xerneas, so a little bit of a actually the same. Sorry, my bad. The same lead now from here, and actually the same lead
from both players.
So we might actually see that same sort of turn. So again, Salamence intimidating first, and then I think we had seen the Fairy Aura once again from Jose's side.
Yep. So that's probably telling. The Fairy Aura has gone first on Jose's side twice now, and I believe that's the only interaction we've seen between the two Xerneas. So 2 for 2, pretty likely that Jose's is just trained to be faster. Yeah, but if you're Michael, like the first game went so well for you that even if you do Geomance and get roared immediately again, I don't think you really mind. Like if you get roared out into Salamence, into Groudon, then perfect, repeat of game 1. If you get roared out into Stack Attacker, you still have that threatening Xerneas with the Gyro Ball, possibly Incineroar with a Rock Slide. Some of them are carrying Rock Slide still, and so I don't see a big reason to deviate from what you did game 1 unless you were fearing some kind of mix-up from Jose.
Yeah, and I mean even Tapu Fini would be kind of nice because at least you can bring in stuff in like Heal Pulse or like Haze and do random things like that. Tapu Fini is. I think the other night we were all talking about this. You guys were like, "Oh, Tapu Fini is a better Cresselia at this point." But Stack Attack is just going to come in here for that manual switch out from that Salamence. So no setup on this turn for that, but Xerneas is actually going to be switched out as well on Jose, so I'm going to bring in Groudon super early now. Going to get that Primal Reversion and that extremely harsh Sunlight out into the field here.
Yeah, so we do see Groudon come in for the Xerneas. Jose not wanting to risk some kind of Double Edge or Moonblast damage. And correctly predicting that Salamence may not want to remain on the field, and Xerneas not wanting to stare down a Stakataka. But we are going to see Michael Xerneas have free reign this turn, unless there's a Fake Out coming out.
We're actually going to see a Geomancy no Fake Out, which means Jose is probably was expecting that, might have gone for another Roar here. And it's kind of fun just to sit here and like know that there's a potential that all this animation we're sitting through for the Xerneas is going to be
for not.
Yeah, it's going to be like, hey, thanks for all the boosts. See you later. We're going to roar you on out of here.
Right.
We don't want you to get burned from the sun, obviously, Xerneas. Right?
Xerneas didn't bring its sunscreen to Florida.
Oh man, what is that? Oh, no!
Zimu.
Excuse me.
Hello.
Is that
Fireum?
I love Fireum Z. That is so great. So to see that in Incineroar though, so this Incineroar is super cheeky.
Yeah, no, Incineroar taking advantage of the sunlight, going for a Inferno Overdrive, likely boost coming off of that Flare Blitz attack, which is a very, very strong attack. In the sun, even though it's at -1, this will do a pretty sizable chunk to Xerneas.
Xerneas is definitely not going to like
No,
that.
not at all.
Definitely regretting not bringing that sunscreen. Is going to be down to a 79 HP. However, is boosted. It did not get roared out, but does have to worry about the Precipice Blades from Groudon or Fire Punch or just getting double down into.
Fire Punch almost definitely able to knock it out unless Xerneas' partner switches out into that Salamence. Especially at -1, it might be able to take a Fire Punch. It absolutely will be able to take a Precipice Blades. But the Stakataka really isn't much right now, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Stakataka rotate back out into Salamence. Since that Incineroar is carrying that Z Crystal, it might be trained to be a little bit more offensive in nature. A lot of times we've been seeing Incineroar run that careful nature, which boosts its special defense, but with that Fire Z, you probably want to get as much out of that attack as possible, so a boosted Xerneas may be able to take Incineroar on one hit.
Stakataka tag teaming out of here, bringing back in that Salamence, like you said, gets another Intimidate into the Pokemon on this field. So it's going to put that Groudon at -1 and the Incineroar, I think, at -2 at this point. So Groudon's Precipice Blades or Fire Punches are not going to be dealing as much damage. Xerneas going for that boosted Dazzling Gleam is going to do a lot of damage to that Incineroar. Gets it down to the red and actually gets that Groudon just a little bit above half health still. And is going to connect the Precipice Blades on the Xerneas. Is at -1 though, and Xerneas holding on for another turn. However, is going to say bye to us with that Roar finally.
Yeah, so Xerneas does a lot of damage there. Moonblast almost definitely would have been able to knock it out, considering the damage from the Dazzling Gleam, but I do respect the decision to get some damage on Groudon as well. And bringing in Salamence means that you can easily fire off a Hyper Voice here, pick off the Incineroar, get a little bit more damage on Groudon. And a little bit unfortunate that Stakataka is the one roared in instead of Groudon this time. But if it is carrying that Shuca Berry, it does have a little bit of flexibility against Groudon. If you don't really want to risk that, you can always bring your Xerneas back in, potentially try to save Stakataka for later too.
Jose going to preserve that Incineroar, brings in his own Salamence, so a little bit of a change here from game one, substituting that out for a different Pokemon here. Does get Intimidate into both of these Pokemon, and both of these Pokemon are pretty physical attackers here. Stakataka actually going to be like, I don't want to be intimidated, and I'm leaving, bringing back in Xerneas. And I think just kind of seeing, hey, you're on your last hind legs, might as well kind of sacrifice you this turn.
Right.
Most likely, as we finally get a Mega Evolution here from the Salamence on Michael's side, and sacrificing that Intimidate for Aerialate instead.
Very smart on Michael's end, I think. Your Xerneas, even though it's a very powerful Pokemon, and it's very low health, and any kind of attack will knock it out at this point. So a smart decision to kind of sacrifice it here. Get a free switch in, probably into your own Groudon at this point. Oh, but an Avoid, that's big.
Yeah, I mean, Xerneas avoiding an attack, I don't know if that's really something that you're okay with, because I mean, it gives you a free switch to something else too.
You don't get a free switch, but your Xerneas, now that Tailwind is up, it's going to be fast again, and anything like a Moonblast, it will still knock out Salamence even though it's not boosted. Dazzling Gleam will do a lot of damage, and Dazzling Gleam plus Hyper Voice, it will easily knock out the Salamence, possibly even take out this Groudon. So while you don't get a free switch, you also don't need a free switch at this point. You're completely happy saving your Xerneas and being able to fire off some damage here.
The Xerneas kind of cracks me up because it's just sitting here and it's like, no, I kind of want to keep fighting, so let's stay and let's dodge these rocks. As Incineroar is going to come in for that Salamence. Is that in the red? We did see it use that Z Crystal just a couple turns ago, so no chance of recovery for it here. Will intimidate into both the Salamence and the Xerneas. That Salamence is going to be, I think, -1 right now. The Hyper Voice, though, is going to connect with both and is boosted. Barely misses the knockout on Groudon. However, Xerneas still has the option to go on this turn, as it does go for a Dazzling Gleam, which is going to be now single target and very easily pick up that sliver of HP on that Groudon.
Right. So instead of your Xerneas being knocked out and having Groudon on the field this turn, Michael had the privilege of having his Xerneas being able to fire off another Dazzling Gleam, which is able to finish off that Groudon. And now that Jose is just down to his own Salamence and his own Xerneas, he's going to have a pretty tough time breaking through the Stakataka. Stakataka double resists those flying type attacks from Salamence. It single resists those fairy type attacks, but usually trained in special defense because it is such a good check to Xerneas.
This is not the mirror that Jose wants
No,
to see when
not
he's got
at
the
all.
last two Pokemon left here.
No.
I mean, Jose hasn't, consumed his Power Herb yet to set up, but
No.
It's not going to matter at this point.
No, it seems like too little too late at this point. If he wants any chance of winning this game, he's probably going to have to consume that Power Herb and get a Geomancy off. I don't think that Michael is capable of knocking out Xerneas on Jose's end this turn, just because his own Salamence is at -2, maybe -3 attack at this point, and Double Edge and Hyper Voice, or Hyper Voice combined with a Moonblast won't be able to pick up that knockout, but he'll be able to get off enough damage that Stakataka will be able to finish off with a Gyro Ball.
All right, and no Mega Evolution from the Salamence on Jose's side, but does go for Protect, as Salamence on Mike's side goes for the Protect, is going to connect with that Xerneas, and is going to get a little bit of damage here. Actually, pretty good for a -1 here, as Moonblast now from the Xerneas on Mike's side is going to be faster thanks to that Tailwind Still. Almost picks up the knockout here on the Xerneas on Jose's side and allows it to go for the Geomancy, but at this point, it is just on that tiny, bar
just
of
barely
health.
hanging on. Yeah. So it does get the Geomancy up at the cost of a pretty big chunk of itself. Very smart play from Michael, going for a Moonblast into Xerneas instead of just a Dazzling Gleam, because he gets that little bit more damage. And we do see that Tailwind is still up on Michael's side, so Hyper Voice from Salamence will pick off that Xerneas, and a Xerneas Moonblast or Dazzling Gleam from Michael's end will be able to finish the Salamence off. And so it's looking pretty bleak for Jose here. He would likely need a double Protect with his Salamence in order to give himself a chance, but it's going to be really tough for him to pull this one out.
Xerneas going for the Protect on Jose's side, going to try to hang on just a little bit more. Gets the double Protect here on the Salamence, so there is a little bit of a fighting chance. But Salamence not going to connect Hyper Voice, and Xerneas not going to connect with any of its moves either. Probably going for that Moonblast into that Salamence slot. It was the easiest thing you could have done here.
Right.
And Tailwind does expire. So, Stakataka is still in the back, so I think Jose is kind of just prolonging the inevitable at this point.
To give himself like a sliver of a chance, that's exactly what he needed. But Michael still has the Groudon. He still has a Stakataka in the back, both of which I believe are at full or very close to full health. And so, even though Jose is going to take 2 knockouts here, Dazzling Gleam from the boosted Xerneas will knock out Salamence and Xerneas on Michael's end. But that gives Michael a switch into his Stakataka or into his Groudon, which will pretty much end the game on their own.
Yeah, and Salamence going for Protect on Michael's side, as Salamence on Jose's side finally goes for the Mega Evolution. Does have the Dazzling Gleam from Jose's Xerneas. It knocks out Michael's Xerneas. I don't have to worry about saying Xerneas anymore now, as it does get knocked out here. But Tailwind now from Jose's side is going to give his own Salamence that sort of boost. And, Xerneas is already at +2. So, Jose's slowly trying to claw his way up here and has to now worry about that Stakataka that's in the back.
Right, this Stakataka hitting the field now, unless there's a rogue hidden power ground that's about to come out from this Salamence, I really don't think it has much to fear. Because it's going to be resisting this Moonblast, it's going to be resisting Hyper Voice and Double Edge, even more so than Moonblast. It's going to be able to set up a Trick Room here, and then it plus Grotto will be able to finish off the game. And I think that was a smart Protect from Salamence on Michael's end. He preserves spread damage from Hyper Voice and Dazzling Gleam, and he gives his Grotto a turn to come in for free after this knockout he's about to take right here.
And Dazzling Gleam going to connect with both Pokemon is going to pick up that knockout very easily on Salamence. It does not like those fairy type moves at all, especially not boosted by both Geomancy and
Fairy Aura.
And Fairy Aura,
Yep.
thank you. But Hyper Voice single target here on Stakataka, not going to do any damage at all. Stakataka's like, that's cool, this is great, have fun. You set up all your speed stuff, you've got Tailwind. I'm going to see that Tailwind and raise you a Trick Room on this turn. So Groudon's going to come in and be like, let's bring in the sun and just sweep up.
Yep. Yeah, the Groudon does come in here, so any attack from either of these Pokemon will knock out the Xerneas. You'd have to imagine something like a Fire Punch into Xerneas and a Gyro Ball into Salamence is probably the best option, just because that's the easiest way to damage Salamence immediately. But at this point, it really doesn't matter. You saw how little damage Salamence did to Stakataka. It would take 7 or 8 more turns for Salamence to knock out Stakataka on its own. And so as long as Michael clicks any sort of attack into Xerneas, like once, at least one time, preferably not Precipice Blades in case it misses, but any sort of stiff breeze will knock out Xerneas at this point, and then Groudon and Snack Attack will be able to finish off Salamence together.
Could you imagine if that Xerneas got like 7 protects in a row? That'd be so impossible.
It would need four in a row to have a
Well, there's
kind of
the first one,
chance.
which is the 100% chance guaranteed, so it is going to protect on this turn.
Right.
Snack Attack going for the Gyro Ball into that Salamence. And it's going to be able to do just a lot of damage on there. Fire Punch into the protected Xerneas spot. And then we're going to see another Hyper Voice here. And we saw it do such little damage to that Stack Attack. I mean,
11.
I can appreciate Jose just being like, I still have these Pokemon on here.
Right.
I have ways. Let's see. I mean, it's not over until the lose screen shows up.
True, yeah. The Tailwind on Jose's end kind of coming back to haunt him here because that Gyro Ball could have done a little bit more damage. Just because the Salamence's speed is doubled. But Stack Attack is so slow that it might have been hitting for full power anyway, so at this point it didn't really matter. And Michael opting for the Gyro Ball and the Salamence option just because it's way more damage than Groudon could have done itself.
Well, no try for the double protect here as the Gyro Ball does finish off that Salamence. We will be seeing the Beast Boost here for Michael's side, which is probably mostly be defense, as most Stack Attack are. And Groudon going for the Fire Punch does not want to risk missing Precipice Blades because that is not something you want to haunt you in your dreams. As Xerneas goes down, giving this round 2-0 to Michael D'Angelo.
A very dominant showing from Michael. Even after that kind of rough turn 1, he played the rest of that game incredibly well, knowing exactly how to attack with his Groudon. He knew that the Groudon was biggest threat on his team at that point, and he kind of took advantage of Jose not bringing Salamence because as soon as that Incineroar went down, the Groudon in his end was very, very. There was nothing really stopping it from just firing off attacks at will. I
mean, I will say I respect Jose for just trying his best to do all of this, right? Especially because I think sometimes when you have mirrors like that, it's very difficult. But having Fire EMZ Incineroar and Roar Incineroar, that's always really fun to see. And it's small differences like that I'm like, oh yeah, we're still really early in this meta that we can do things like that.
Yeah, that Incineroar especially, I think a lot of times Incineroar running certain sets is a kind of setup bait against Xerneas. If it's not carrying Snarl, if it's not carrying Roar, a lot of times you can just kind of click Geomancy in front of it and not really fear anything. But this Incineroar packing both Roar, which will delete the boost like we saw twice in this set, and also that Inferno Overdrive, which we saw do a ton of damage at -1, possibly even knocking out the more offensively trained Xerneas at neutral. And so pretty cool options for Jose's team.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to talk to Michael though in just a little bit. We're bringing him back here for an interview, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be getting round 5 to you guys as soon as possible.
Welcome back to Daytona. We're here with Michael D'Angelo, who just won his fourth round here in Daytona at Regionals, and he is now 4-0. Congrats on your great start. I'm sure you're pretty thrilled with that.
Yeah, it's the best start I've had, so let's see if we can keep it going.
That's awesome, yeah. So we know you haven't had a whole lot of success yet in Regionals. We know you got top 16 at Oaks, top 32 at Dallas, and you're well on your way to kind of a bigger finish.
We'll see, hopefully.
Yeah. So how long have you been playing? I don't think none of us have...
So I used to play on and off in college back in VGC 14.
Okay.
And then I took a little bit of a hiatus. Came back at 16, played in a couple regionals there. Didn't do too well since then, but cool. I like 19. I like the different formats. I
Yeah.
like the Sun Moon Ultra Series, changes it up.
Yeah, it is fun. So considering you played at Oaks, which is Sun, you played in Dallas, which was Moon, and now you're playing here, which is Ultra.
Yeah, first
Yeah.
regional of the format. And
Yeah.
see
Oh
if it
yeah,
does
first
well.
of all 3 of them. That's funny. So how have you found the transition between formats? This is kind of a unique situation we've had in VGC because we never really had this kind of 3 formats in one before.
Yeah, so Sun to Moon was kind of similar.
Mhm.
You know, every team that found success in Sun, you kind of just slap a Z move somewhere and it will
Yeah.
do well in Moon. But Ultra has been completely different.
Right.
Completely different.
Different. And looks like it's a good way for you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I found my best success with Groudon Xerneas in Sun and Moon, so
May as well keep going.
I just change it up a little bit.
Right. So let's talk about that game we just saw. You know, both games we saw your Xerneas boost up and then get roared out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But really not to your detriment, especially that game 1.
Yeah, so even after I saw it happen game 1, like roar happens, you know, but I felt like going to stack Attacka on the other side and getting roared out was a trade in position, I guess. So as long as I got that free switch, I was willing to get the roar.
Yeah.
Game 1, it worked out even better because I got sent to Groudon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Took it from there.
No, that's what we were talking about. Is game 1 that Groudon came in, and we were saying, like, well, getting roared out is unfortunate, but now you have this Groudon on the field that's not intimidated.
Groudon stack Attacka is a really good position against
Absolutely.
that. So.
Yeah, especially because he didn't bring that Salamence game 1. You kind of just got to hit Precipice Blades.
Yeah, I was scared game 1 and 2 of that the Amoonguss he had.
Right.
So I didn't want to go right for the Trick Room mode and then just get spored to death. So
yeah. That's good point.
Tried to keep the Trick Room in the back.
Yeah.
Really.
No, it worked out well. That Stack Attack definitely closed out the game for you, game 2.
Yeah.
After a similar start with the Geomancy turn 1, but then a different turn 1 move from that Incineroar, that Fire MZ, is that something you expected at all? Because we
Never
certainly
seen
weren't.
that.
Yeah.
Never seen that.
No.
But even after I saw the animation, I felt comfortable. My Xerneas has a lot of defense, and it was intimidated, so
yeah.
I was glad I didn't see Roar.
Right.
Honestly.
Not till the next turn after you'd already done some damage.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it was really fun to watch because we were talking about how your teams were very similar in composition, other than Lele and Amoonguss instead of Stack Attack and Feeny. But the difference was that you had that defensive backbone with the Stack Attack, and that really came in handy because you had a really solid answer to both that Salamence and Xerneas all in one Pokemon.
Yeah. In all my playtesting, that 6th slot was the one that moved around the most.
The Stack Attack.
Yeah, between Bronzong, Amoonguss, Stack Attacka, and I ended up liking Stack Attacka. I felt it was really good in the mirror match.
Right.
Something that'll definitely kill Xerneas. So
yeah,
it's been working out. As long as you kill the Groudon, it usually beats the rest of their team.
Right. No, that's very true. So congrats on your winning. 4-0. You got 3 more left.
Yeah.
Hopefully you do well and make your first cut. But any quick shout outs you want to give?
Shout outs to Don Check and Eric Schrader. They've been probably my best team building partners for the whole season. Eric always gives me some fun teams to try out too. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Shout outs to them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back with round 5 here from Daytona.